Welcome back to our channel. You might have a small fortune sitting in your change jar right now. The Roosevelt Dime, often dismissed as pocket change, actually holds some of the rarest and most valuable coins in history. Let's find out if you've got one. Stick around, because you won't believe how much some of these coins are worth. The 1998 Roosevelt Dime coin might appear simple at first glance, but there's a rich story behind it, and it holds a level of intrigue and value that many don't expect. For most people, dimes are just everyday change that's easily overlooked, but what if I told you that some of them are worth far more than you'd ever imagine? Today, we're going to look at the 1998 Roosevelt Dime, its background, design, minting details, and what makes a select few worth a staggering amount of money. To begin, let's take a step back and look at the coin's history. The Roosevelt Dime has been in circulation since 1946, following the death of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. The decision was made to honor Roosevelt on the dime because of his leadership through some of America's most challenging years. The design was crafted by John R. Sinek, the chief engraver of the U.S. Mint at the time, and it features the profile of Roosevelt facing left. The reverse side of the coin includes a torch, olive branch, and oak branch, symbols of liberty, peace, and strength, but why focus on the 1998 version of this dime? While it's easy to think of most coins as unremarkable, the 1998 Roosevelt Dime holds a special place for collectors. Though most dimes are produced in huge quantities, some years produce coins with rare features, like errors during the minting process. It's these rare variations that can make certain coins more valuable than you might expect. Now, about the 1998 Roosevelt Dime. This year was not just another typical year for coin production. In fact, the U.S. Mint produced dimes at 3 different locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. While the dimes from Denver and Philadelphia are the most common, the San Francisco Mint struck proof dimes. Proof coins are specially made for collectors, with an enhanced finish that makes them stand out in a collection. These dimes have always been highly regarded due to their quality, but that's not all. What really makes the 1998 Roosevelt Dime stand out are the coins with minting errors, more specifically, those with a double die error. A double die occurs when a coin is struck twice by the die during the minting process, resulting in doubled letters or numbers. In the case of the 1998 Roosevelt Dime, some proof coins were struck with this error, which is rare and highly sought after by collectors. The error is subtle, but when noticed, it makes the coin exceptionally valuable. These double die error dimes are a hot commodity, as they are far rarer than the regular 1998 Roosevelt dimes. While most coins in circulation don't have these errors, a select few were produced, and they've become treasures among collectors who hunt for these rare variations. Even the slightest mistake in the minting process can lead to a significant difference in a coin's worth. If you happen to have one of these rare error dimes, you might be holding a small fortune. The demand for these rare 1998 Roosevelt dimes with minting errors has driven up their price over time. In fact, the most valuable of these dimes, those in pristine condition with the double die error, have been known to fetch astronomical prices. So, if you think you might have a 1998 Roosevelt dime with a double die error, or even just one in excellent condition, it's worth taking the time to get it professionally graded. Grading determines the coin's quality and rarity, and the higher the grade, the more valuable it becomes. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being perfect. The condition of the coin plays a massive role in determining its value, but let's get to the exciting part. What is the actual value of the 1998 Roosevelt dime? While regular dimes from 1998 are worth, of course, just 10 cents, those with the error can sell for far more. Depending on the condition and rarity, some of these error coins have been known to sell for as much as $71,000. Yes, you heard that right. A 1998 Roosevelt dime can be worth $71,000 if it has the right minting error and is in excellent condition. That's a life-changing sum of money for a coin that's normally worth just a dime. So, if you happen to find one of these rare, error-struck dimes, don't hesitate to have it professionally assessed. Who knows? You could be holding on to a valuable piece of history. Let's step back in time to 1984, a year that marked some significant moments in American history, from President Ronald Reagan's re-election to the global stage being set for the early days of the tech revolution. In the world of numismatics, however, the year also holds a special place due to a certain coin that quietly circulated among the masses, the 1984 Roosevelt Dime. At first glance, this coin might seem like just another dime, blending into the daily transactions of the time, but when we look deeper, we find a piece of American history that continues to captivate collectors and hold surprising value. To understand the allure of the 1984 Roosevelt Dime, we have to first revisit the history of the Roosevelt Dime itself. It all started in 1946, right after the passing of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, a leader who had shaped the nation during the Great Depression and World War II. Franklin D. Roosevelt's legacy was cemented with the creation of this coin, which was initially proposed by his widow, Eleanor Roosevelt. Roosevelt had been deeply connected to the March of Dimes, an organization aimed at eradicating polio, and so, it was only fitting that his likeness would be placed on the dime to honor both his legacy and his efforts against the disease. The design of the Roosevelt Dime, created by chief engraver of the U.S. Mint, John R. Sinek, has remained largely unchanged since its debut in 1946. The obverse of the coin features a left-facing profile of Roosevelt himself, capturing his dignified expression. On the reverse side of the coin, we see a torch, olive branch, and oak branch, symbols of liberty, peace, and strength. Though it is simple and straightforward in design, the coin has come to embody a deep sense of history and respect for a man who led the country through some of its most turbulent times. But why focus on the 1984 version of this dime? What makes the 1984 Roosevelt Dime worth more than just its face value, and what has contributed to its allure for collectors? The answer lies in the details. While most of the dimes minted in the United States are relatively common and easily found, certain years and variations can become highly prized due to factors like minting errors, limited production runs, or even subtle differences in the coin's design. The 1984 Roosevelt Dime isn't necessarily famous for having a unique or significant design change, but there are specific reasons why this particular year has garnered attention in the coin collecting world. For starters, the 1984 Roosevelt Dime is a product of the era's minting process. During the 1980s, the U.S. Mint was fine-tuning its methods to produce more consistent and higher-quality coins. The 1984 dimes were struck at the Mint's primary facilities in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. While coins from all three mints were produced and distributed across the country, those from the San Francisco Mint were specifically designed as proof coins, which were sold in sets to collectors. These proof coins, created with a special minting process to ensure sharper details and a glossy finish, were part of a larger effort to meet the demands of numismatists and coin collectors. Now, the 1984 Roosevelt Dime itself may seem relatively ordinary compared to other more famous coins in American history, but collectors began to take notice when certain coins were identified with unique characteristics. One key factor was the overall condition of the coins. Many 1984 dimes, especially the proof versions, were meticulously produced and exhibit a level of detail and quality that appeals to those who value coins in excellent condition. The 1984 dimes from San Francisco, with their proof finish, were produced in limited numbers, and over time, they've become more desirable because they were less likely to circulate widely. However, as with any coin, some variations and errors make specific examples of the 1984 dime particularly interesting. One of the key aspects that sets apart some 1984 Roosevelt dimes is the presence of subtle minting errors, an area that can add tremendous value to a coin. Minting errors, such as double strikes, off-center strikes, or die cracks, are always sought after by collectors. These small imperfections can turn an otherwise unremarkable dime into a rare and valuable piece of numismatic history. Some of the 1984 dimes exhibited slight imperfections in their striking process, which were not caught during minting. These dimes, especially those with more noticeable errors, became highly desirable. The very fact that they were struck with such imperfections gives them a unique history, and collectors know that these small flaws make the coins incredibly rare and valuable. What's more, the rarity of these errors, coupled with the fact that they were struck during a period when the minting process was improving, only adds to the mystique of the 1984 dime. And then, of course, there's the matter of the coin's appeal to collectors. Like any collector's market, the value of a coin can be determined by several factors: its rarity, condition, historical significance, and, of course, its potential for growth in value. The 1984 Roosevelt Dime, particularly the proof versions and those with minting errors, has proven to be a coin that appeals to collectors who appreciate these very factors. As the years have passed, more and more collectors have become aware of the unique features of these coins, making them highly sought after on the market. Now, let's turn our attention to the value of the 1984 Roosevelt Dime. As a general rule, most of the dimes minted in 1984 are worth their face value, just 10 cents. However, when you start considering the higher quality proof coins and those with minting errors, the value begins to rise significantly. A perfect 1984 proof dime, with no imperfections and in pristine condition, can fetch a respectable price among collectors. But the real magic happens when you find one with a minting error or a particularly rare quality. The market for rare and error-struck coins is driven by collectors' passions and the constant search for something truly unique. Some of the 1984 Roosevelt dimes with significant errors have been known to sell for tens of thousands of dollars, but the most astounding prices come from those few coins that exhibit the most remarkable characteristics. If you're lucky enough to find a 1984 Roosevelt dime in flawless condition, especially with a minting error, you could be holding a coin worth up to $95000. Yes, that's right. A single 1984 Roosevelt dime, with the right set of rare characteristics, has been known to fetch an incredible $95,000. This is the kind of coin that can make a collector's heart race, and it's exactly why coin enthusiasts and collectors pay such close attention to every minute detail of their collections. For those lucky enough to own one of these rare pieces, it's a small fortune in their pocket, literally. When we think of dimes, they might seem like nothing more than small change. They're often overlooked in the hustle of everyday transactions, simply used to buy a cup of coffee or to pay for a parking meter. But the 1975 Roosevelt dime is no ordinary coin. It's a piece of American history, and for those who know where to look, it's a coin that can be worth far more than just 10 cents. To truly appreciate the value of the 1975 Roosevelt dime, we need to take a step back and understand its origins. The Roosevelt dime was first introduced in 1946, just a year after the passing of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Roosevelt was a man who led the United States through some of the most challenging times in its history, including the Great Depression and World War II. His legacy was deeply connected to the March of Dimes charity, which helped fund efforts to fight polio, a disease that had deeply affected many American families. In honor of Roosevelt's legacy, the U.S. Mint decided to put his image on the dime, and it has remained a symbol of respect and remembrance ever since. Designed by John R. Sinek, the chief engraver of the U.S. Mint, the Roosevelt dime features a left-facing profile of the late president on the obverse. On the reverse side, there's a torch flanked by an olive branch and an oak branch, symbols representing liberty, peace, and strength. While the design has remained largely unchanged since 1946, certain years of the Roosevelt dime stand out for various reasons. And the 1975 Roosevelt dime is one of those years that deserves a closer look. In 1975, the U.S. Mint was busy at work producing millions of dimes, but there were some special circumstances that made this year different from others. The biggest reason was the celebration of the bicentennial of the United States, marking the 200th anniversary of the country's independence. As part of this national celebration, the U.S. Mint issued special coin designs for the quarter, half-dollar, and dollar coins. These coins featured unique designs that would forever mark the milestone year of 1976. Interestingly, while the 1976 bicentennial coins were a huge hit, the Roosevelt dime was not part of this redesign. The dime continued with the same design, but with a unique twist. The coin was still minted with the year 1975 inscribed on it, rather than the bicentennial 1776 to 1976 that appeared on the quarters and half dollars. However, despite the 1975 date, there were a small number of dimes that were mistakenly struck with a 1776 to 1976 bicentennial design. This error, a coin with the 1776 to 1976 date on a Roosevelt dime, quickly caught the attention of collectors. Even though it was only a small number of coins that had the incorrect bicentennial date, this error turned the 1975 Roosevelt dime into something much more valuable than its face value. These error coins were rare, making them highly coveted among numismatists, and they are part of what gives the 1975 Roosevelt dime its special place in the world of coin collecting. But finding one of these coins isn't easy. Most of the 1975 Roosevelt dimes were struck with the standard 1975 date, and they don't stand out from any other year's production. However, the proof coins, those specially made for collectors, are where things get interesting. These proof coins, minted primarily in San Francisco, have always been made with a higher quality finish. They were created for collectors rather than for general circulation, so they were struck with care and precision, giving them an almost mirror-like finish. Over time, many collectors have come to appreciate these proof coins for their superior quality and their potential for long-term value. It's these proof versions of the 1975 Roosevelt Dime that are most likely to contain the sought-after errors. Even though they were intended to be more pristine than their regular counterparts, there's always the chance that a mistake could slip through. It's this mix of rarity and error that has made the 1975 Roosevelt Dime one of the most exciting coins for collectors in recent years. The error coins, particularly those with the bicentennial design, have fetched impressive amounts of money in auctions and private sales. What makes the 1975 Roosevelt Dime so special isn't just the error, though. There's also the factor of condition. Like all coins, the quality and condition of the 1975 dimes vary greatly. The dimes that have been kept in mint condition, or those that have been well preserved for years, can hold significant value. A well-maintained coin, even one without a minting error, can be worth more than its face value. When you factor in the errors, the misprints and rare design flaws, the value of a 1975 Roosevelt dime can rise astronomically. It's worth noting that while many of the 1975 dimes are still relatively easy to come by, the true prize lies in the error coins, particularly those struck with the 1776 to 1976 bicentennial design. These coins are not only rare, but they represent a moment in history when something as simple as a mistake turned a routine coin into a prized treasure. The fact that such a mistake was made on a coin with such historical significance makes it all the more appealing to collectors. So, what's the value of the 1975 Roosevelt dime today? If you have a regular 1975 dime, it's worth exactly what you'd expect, 10 cents. However, the 1975 Roosevelt dime with the bicentennial error, especially in good condition, has been known to fetch a staggering price. Depending on its grade, these error coins can easily go for tens of thousands of dollars. The rarest and most pristine examples, the ones that showcase the error clearly and maintain their impeccable quality, have sold for as much as $109,000. Yes, you read that correctly. A single 1975 Roosevelt dime, a coin worth just 10 cents to the untrained eye, can be worth as much as $109,000 if it has the right error and is in excellent condition. That's the magic of numismatics. A small mistake, a rare design flaw, or even the mere passage of time can turn an ordinary piece of currency into something extraordinary. So, the next time you're sorting through your pocket change or going through old coins, keep an eye out for the 1975 Roosevelt dime. If you happen to find one of these rare error coins, you might just be holding a small fortune in your hand. The 1972 Roosevelt dime might seem like just another coin, but it carries a fascinating history that goes beyond its small size. At first glance, it may look like just pocket change, but dig a little deeper, and you'll discover a captivating story filled with art, history, and a surprise twist. This once ordinary coin has evolved into a highly sought-after treasure in the world of numismatics. To understand its significance, let's rewind to the era of Franklin D. Roosevelt, who guided the nation through the Great Depression and World War II. After his passing in 1945, the U.S. government wanted to honor his leadership. In 1946, they introduced the Roosevelt dime to replace the Mercury dime, featuring a design by John R. Sinek that would become iconic and enduring. The design of the Roosevelt dime is both simple and powerful. Roosevelt's dignified profile graces the front, while the reverse side features a torch, an olive branch, and an oak branch, symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength. It was more than just a coin, it was a tribute to the legacy of a leader who changed the course of American history. By 1972, the Roosevelt dime had been circulating for over 25 years. While the country was experiencing significant social and economic changes, the coin remained a familiar presence. For most people, it was just another dime, nothing special. But for collectors, the 1972 Roosevelt dime was part of something much larger and more meaningful. In 1972, the U.S. Mint produced these dimes in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, each using slightly different methods and equipment. These small variations would later become key points of interest for collectors who specialized in finding the unique details in each year's coins. The U.S. Mint continued using the familiar copper-nickel alloy for the 1972 Roosevelt Dime, ensuring its durability. The coin was mass-produced and found its way into millions of pockets and purses, circulating without much fanfare. However, over time, the attention of collectors began to shift toward coins like the 1972 Roosevelt Dime, which had become an important part of America's numismatic tradition. But why did the 1972 Roosevelt Dime rise above the ordinary? Well, it's all about the details, the design, the minting process, and the rarity that would make certain examples incredibly valuable. Let's start with the design. The Roosevelt Dime has always been admired for its timeless elegance. The profile of Roosevelt captures his strength and character, while the reverse imagery continues to symbolize the ideals of liberty, peace, and strength that he championed during his presidency. These design elements alone make the dime a meaningful piece of American history. Now, let's talk about the minting process. The U.S. Mint took great care when producing the 1972 Roosevelt Dime, but imperfections in the minting process could lead to some very interesting and valuable mistakes. Small variations in the way the coins were struck often went unnoticed at first but were later discovered by collectors with a keen eye for detail. Error coins, such as off-center strikes, double strikes, or misaligned dies, have always been highly coveted. The 1972 Roosevelt Dime was no exception. These errors made certain dimes far rarer and more valuable, with collectors eagerly seeking out these unique pieces. And of course, there was always the factor of condition. Coins that were well preserved, with little to no wear, were more likely to be graded highly and become the centerpiece of any collection point. One of the most thrilling aspects of coin collecting is the chase for a hidden gem, and that's exactly what the 1972 Roosevelt Dime became. While millions of these coins were struck, only a small percentage remained in pristine condition or featured those rare minting errors. This rarity is what sparked a wave of interest from collectors, driving the value of certain dimes to skyrocket over time. Today, the 1972 Roosevelt Dime, which was once just a simple dime in circulation, is now a gem in the numismatic world. Its value has steadily risen, especially for those examples that showcase unique features or are in exceptional condition. Some of these coins, with errors or flawless preservation, have become highly prized collectibles. Now, here's the biggest surprise: the current market value of the 1972 Roosevelt Dime is nothing short of astonishing. In 2023, a 1972 Roosevelt Dime with an error, or one in near-perfect condition, can fetch an eye-popping price of up to $118,000. Yes, you heard that right, a coin that was once worth only 10 cents has now soared to a staggering value. This dramatic increase in value is a testament to how the combination of rarity, historical significance, and collector demand can turn an ordinary piece of currency into a remarkable treasure. So, the next time you find a 1972 Roosevelt Dime in your pocket change, don't just pass it by. Take a moment to consider its history, its story, and its potential. You might be holding a piece of American history worth far more than its face value.